Walt Disney had a really famous trick to come up with original ideas. He knew that originality was key in staying ahead of the curve. So in his offices, he had set up 3 separate rooms for his creatives to brainstorm new ideas in. In the first room, he actually named this room The Dreamer. And in this room, everything was possible. Anything goes. All ideas were on the table. Nothing was off limits. The second room was called The Realist, and in it, these ideas were tested for realistic feasibility. How can we make this idea work? The third room was called The Spoiler, and in this room, all the other creatives tried to shoot holes through it and really fully attack the best ideas. And only the ideas that made it through this mill of 3 rooms, those were the ideas that Walt decided to work on more. If it's so easy to come up with a creative idea like that, so easy to come up with something original, then why is it so hard for me to come up with an original idea? Really, it is likely you and I have rarely had original ideas in our lives, if ever. Because if you think about it, after more than 6,000 years of civilization, after more than 117 billion people have traversed this earth, it is hard to not believe that all ideas have already been thought. Why would my brain or your brain be able to produce anything new of creative value? It stands to reason that humankind is almost all out of ideas. And actually, I found out about this firsthand. I woke up in the middle of the night when I was just starting out as a composer, and I had the most amazing melody stuck in my head. And I was like, this is it. And I sat down behind my piano, I put my wig on, because I always wear a wig when I'm composing, and then I played some chords, F, E/F diminished, A7, and I sang the melody. And I wrote some lyrics too. Yesterday, all my troubles seem so far. Oh, I had accidentally written Yesterday by Paul McCartney in my dreams. The first time I found out that my ideas are not unique, I was terrified, like an opera singer who lost his voice. Because this means we are no longer able to produce anything new of creative value. And what is the point of making stuff if all ideas have already been ideaed? So, I wanted to prove to myself that I am wrong about this in my TED Talk. I want to figure out a way to come up with a really creative, original thought. And I figured if I can do this within an existing framework, such as poetry, I can prove to myself and to you that I am able to come up with an original and unique thought. Hell yeah. I'm going to journey on through my own thoughts towards true originality. And a limerick seemed like a really nice medium for this. A limerick, maybe you know, this is a very simple poem, a 5-line poem with an AABBA form. And this is the most common one. There once was a man from Nantucket who kept all of his cash in a bucket. But his daughter named Nan ran away with a man, and as for the bucket, Nantucket. All right, makes sense. I guess these are the rules of my new game. I'm going to write dumb poems of 5 lines each until I finally come up with a creative and original idea. Well, all right then, let's have a go at this. There once was a man from Nantucket whose bodily smell caused a ruckus. When he stood in a breeze, the whole town smelled like cheese, but all of the French people loved it. All right, not bad, but the rhymes aren't really well written because ruckus doesn't really rhyme with Nantucket now, does it? Also, the juxtaposition in this poem is far from original because body odor and the smell of cheese, that's been done before. And then it dawned on me while writing this. If it's so hard for me to come up with anything original, then it must be hard for everyone. It means all of my favorite painters and poets and performers, they all struggle to find something new and creative. And this actually means that, in a way, it levels the playing field. Anyone can be creative, and anyone can be artistic. And with that in the back of my mind, I decided, all right, I'm going to give it another go. One sudden day, all names changed to Jim. Yours, Nan's, and our next of kin. Characters faded away. Chaos, confusion, people astray. Jim Carrey laughed, for he was already Jim within. So what exactly do I have control over when I'm being creative? And where exactly do my ideas originate when I'm trying to figure out this new poem? These are the questions that popped up to me when writing this. Well, I believe we all have an inner voice that tells us to make stuff and think of things. And even though this inner voice might be unoriginal, it is deeply personal. This inner voice that you have inside of you talks to you in what I like to call a language of ideas. And you can actually change that. That is something you actually have influence over. Your environment dictates your language of ideas. The more you move into a certain subject, which could be anything, the more your language of ideas will start looking like that one subject. And if you don't, your language of ideas will not develop. If all the tools you have available are a hammer, all your problems will start to look like a nail. And this actually blew my mind the first time I heard of this. Because I was fixing some problems on my first car. It was a proper piece of junk. I was only using duct tape everywhere, on the hood and in my interior. And then my dad looked at it, and he started laughing at me, and he bought me a toolkit with this saying on the gift card: if the only tool you have is a hammer, all problems start to look like a nail. And then I realized you need a tool in order to form an idea, and your environment is the tool set that forms your language of ideas. For example, if you're a complete nerd about romantic comedies, you'll find your ideas become more cutesy and more lovely and more romantic, and before you know it, you'll be saying things like, "I'm just a girl standing in front of a boy, asking him to love her." If you're knee-deep into writing code and all your friends are programmers, it is likely your language of ideas will be very rigid and to the point and literal and efficient. If you're surrounded by anger and by violence, it is likely your language of ideas will also be angry and violent, or be a strong reaction against it. Either way, it will be part of your language. And if you surround yourself with abstract art and improvised jazz music, like I did for the better part of my life, you'll find your ideas will become more improvisational and free of form. And you might even come up with weird limericks like this one. As tuna becomes a sweetwater fish, sweet singing sounds hit my tongue and nourish. Feelings from long, long ago of saxophones and practice, tell and show. Goldfish chew on my memory as I reminisce. I actually kind of like where this is going. At least I'm no longer in Nantucket, so that's a win. So how do you develop your own language of ideas? Well, the first way is by changing your surroundings, as like I said before already. Movies you watch, the albums you listen to, the people you meet, and the places you go to. And this is what artists sometimes refer to as finding inspiration. It's a great way to change your language of ideas. But the other way is to develop your own taste. And this is a critical skill. Ask yourself the question, why do or don't I like this? What exactly do I like about this one album, or that one book, or this one person, or that one place? Developing your taste is as much being a lover as being a critic of things. And the more you train this skill to analyze why you don't and do like something, the more rich and vivid your language of ideas will be. So I tried to put that to the test and wrote a little poem. A 14-year drought, like a caged big bird, finally broke out in anger, all dried up and hurt, and rushed beats to my head of blue, yellow, red. Ideas are nothing but thoughts made from dirt. Look at me, being all profound. I'm being very poetic here, aren't I? I'm like a modern-day Hemingway, if I so may say. Yeah. If I were critical of this poem, and I am, I'd have a lot to say about it. First of all, it's very overly poetic. Like, I use many metaphors. Drought for a writer's block. The colors, blue, yellow, and red for creativity. And then the punchline, ideas are nothing but thoughts made from dirt. That is very preachy, like I'm a pastor who speaks in absolutisms. I like the rhythm. The rhythm is quite nice. Dried up and hurt has a certain bounce to it. But then the rhymes, again, are very terrible. Bird, hurt, and dirt. That's basic stuff. All in all, I feel there could be a lot more to this poem than what I was able to put in. I'm bashing my own limerick, not to Not because I don't like it, I actually quite like it, but because I want to show you what it feels like to analyze why you do and don't like certain things. The question, why do or don't I like this, always has at least a dozen answers. So, where do you start? Where do I start? Let's say there is a creative problem that requires your creative thinking. You need to come up with a solution for your new company, to come up with a sales strategy, or maybe you have to write the song for your significant other's birthday, something like that. Doesn't matter. Starting is the hardest part. Getting into a creative state of mind is the hardest part. And trust me, I know, it can suck sometimes. But there are a couple of things that really help me. And the first one is to give yourself a safe space, a completely open mode where all your ideas can come and everything can linger and your ideas can just go about and be weird. A dream room, basically. If you get yourself into an open state of mind, you'll find that your ideas start popping up like corn in a microwave. And if I asked you the question to describe the color blue to me when you're in this open mode, in this safe space, it is likely your brain will start making associations that you haven't thought of before. From every blue-haired person you've ever met, to every time you felt blue, or every time you read a sentence with the word blue in it. It is likely that's an original thought right there. So I tried this. I sat down in my comfortable chair, I put my phone in flight mode, and I just started thinking. Tick, clock, work, wander, yonder, forest, frost, rain, wine, bark, thoughts scattered, crossed. Tinker, linger, listen, say, Ludwig, Mozart, Hemingway. Play until the adult's lost. And you'll be doing this too. Once you need to come up with an idea, you'll be sitting yourself inside your chair and you'll start thinking of creative things. And before you know it, easier thoughts will come up about groceries and about paying rent, about answering your mom's email, and about maybe a birthday coming up. Do not give in to these ideas, because that's a rookie mistake. You will lose your creativity. And by the way, these tips are not mine. These are attributed to the great comedian John Cleese, who was a prolific writer and very creative man. And he said on this topic further, we give up on creative thinking because it is easier to do trivial things that we know we can do, like getting groceries and paying rent, than to start on big things we're not sure we can finish. So, I have long thought humankind is all out of ideas, but luckily this theory is not true. Actually, humankind really needs us to be creative. Humankind has always and will always depend on us coming up with new and original ideas. And this is why you and me should continue on to develop our languages of ideas, continue on to be critical of the things that we see, continue on to have creative minds and really inspire ourselves. And I promise you, if you do this, if you change your environment often and you think critically about what you do and don't like, your idea will stop looking like something you've seen before. You'll think where no one has boldly thought before. And that idea might actually be original. There once was a man from Nantucket who kept all of his thoughts in a bucket. His ideas were like wine, well aged over time, unoriginal, but fine, until he spotted that all the dreams he had thus far had and all the scenes he had thus far shared, the tsunami of sounds and scents and books he read, art he loved and lovers he met, everything our kind had offered this lad was all soaked up in the sponge that was him, wrung out above a bucket, full to the brim. A completely new type of thought emerged, one he had come up with first. Thank you.